The untold story of the ancient city of Benin in Nigeria. Introduction. The ancient city of Benin, located in modern-day Edo State in Nigeria, is one of Africa's most enduring symbols of ingenuity, culture, and historical significance. Known for its sophisticated governance system, legendary artwork, and architectural marvels, Benin City was the heart of the Benin Kingdom, one of the most powerful empires in West Africa during its peak. However, the tales often told about Benin focus on its grandeur and its tragic fall to colonial powers in 1897. Hidden beneath these narratives are untold stories of resilience, creativity, and the complexities of the people who lived within the city's fortified walls. This account seeks to uncover these less-discussed aspects of Benin's history, from the mysterious origins of the Edo people to the contributions of women in the kingdom, the intricacies of its societal systems, and the profound effects of colonial incursion. This narrative will paint a detailed picture of a civilization that thrived against the odds. The history of Benin City is more than a chronicle of an ancient empire. It is a testament to the enduring spirit of its people and the cultural wealth of Africa, origins and foundation. The history of Benin is intertwined with myths, legends, and historical accounts that converge to tell the story of its origins. The Edo people, who inhabit the region, trace their ancestry to a time before the establishment of formal kingship, during the reign of the Ogisos, meaning kings of the sky. The era of the Ogisos. The Ogiso dynasty, which predates the Oba dynasty, is considered the foundation of Benin's governance. Oral traditions recount how the early Edo people were ruled by a series of Ogisos, whose reigns were marked by both peace and conflict. The first Ogiso Igodo is credited with unifying scattered communities into a centralized political structure, establishing a legacy that would define the city's future. Under the Ogisos, Benin evolved into a complex society with clear social stratification, a rudimentary form of governance, and a growing emphasis on craftsmanship and trade. Despite their significant contributions, the Ogisos' reign was fraught with internal strife. Discontent among the people led to the eventual decline of their dynasty. Oral histories suggest that the final Ogiso, Owodo, was overthrown after failing to manage conflicts within the kingdom, leaving a leadership vacuum that required drastic intervention. The arrival of Oran Miyan and the birth of the Oba dynasty. To fill this vacuum, the Edo people turned to the Yoruba kingdom of Ife, seeking a ruler who could restore order. Oran Miyan, a prince from Ife and the son of Oduduwa, the progenitor of the Yoruba people, was invited to rule Benin. According to legend, Oran Miyan initially found the Edo people difficult to govern and eventually returned to Ife, leaving behind his son, Iweka I, who became the first Oba of Benin. This marked the beginning of the Oba dynasty, which transformed Benin from a fragmented state into a centralized empire with a well-defined system of governance. Early urban development. During its formative years, Benin City began to take shape as a major urban center. Archaeological evidence suggests that by the 11th century, the city was already fortified with earthworks, including an extensive network of moats and walls, collectively known as the Iya. These structures, which were constructed over several centuries, remain one of the largest man-made earthworks in the world, underscoring the organizational and engineering capabilities of the Edo people. The foundation of Benin laid the groundwork for the kingdom's eventual rise to prominence. With a strong leadership structure, a growing population, and advancements in architecture and art, the stage was set for Benin to become a formidable empire. The rise of the Benin Kingdom. The rise of the Benin Kingdom from its early beginnings under the Oba dynasty marked a transformative period in West African history. With a blend of strong leadership, military prowess, and cultural innovation, Benin evolved from a relatively modest state into a formidable empire. This section explores the critical factors that contributed to the kingdom's rise, including its expansionist policies, administrative sophistication, and the influence of its visionary Obas. Consolidation of power under the Oba dynasty. The Oba dynasty, established with the ascension of Iweka I, brought a new sense of stability and order to Benin. Iweka the Wine and his successors laid the foundation for centralized governance, creating a hierarchical system that divided power among the monarchy, a council of chiefs, and local leaders. The Oba held both political and spiritual authority, serving as the ultimate arbiter in disputes and the intermediary between the people and their gods. Among the early Obas, Oba Ewedo played a significant role in solidifying the kingdom's governance. He relocated the royal palace to its current location in the heart of Benin City and established traditions that emphasized the divine nature of the monarchy. This move symbolized the centralization of power and reinforced the Oba's role as the unifying figure of the kingdom. The expansion of the empire. Benin's rise to prominence accelerated during the reign of Oba Awar the Great circa 1440 to 1473. Known for his military prowess and administrative genius, Awar embarked on an ambitious campaign to expand the kingdom's territory. He consolidated smaller communities under Benin's control, extended the empire's borders, and fortified its capital with an even more sophisticated system of moats and walls. Uwer also restructured the kingdom's political and social systems. He established a hereditary succession system, ensuring continuity of leadership, and created two major palace societies, the Uzama, a council of senior chiefs, and the Agayevbo, palace officials. These bodies served as advisory councils and played a vital role in governance, striking a balance between centralized authority and communal representation. Under Iwer's leadership, Benin became a cultural and economic powerhouse. He encouraged the arts, particularly bronze casting and ivory carving, which flourished during his reign. The city itself underwent significant urban development, with well-laid-out streets, expansive public squares, and a thriving marketplace that attracted traders from across West Africa. Military organization and strategic defense. One of the pillars of Benin's power was its formidable military. The kingdom maintained a standing army that was well-trained, disciplined, and equipped with weapons forged by skilled local blacksmiths. The military played a dual role, defending the kingdom from external threats and enforcing the Oba's authority within its territories. The construction of the Benin Moat, Iya, an extensive network of defensive walls and ditches, was both a military and engineering marvel. Spanning thousands of kilometers, the moat served as a barrier against invaders and a symbol of the kingdom's advanced organizational capacity. The labor required to build and maintain these structures demonstrated the collective effort and resource mobilization capabilities of the Edo people. Economic prosperity and trade networks. Benin's strategic location in the Niger Delta region allowed it to become a hub for regional and long-distance trade. The kingdom traded goods such as palm oil, pepper, textiles, and ivory, which were highly valued by neighboring states and European traders. In return, Benin imported luxury items, firearms, and other goods that enhanced its economy and military capabilities. The Obas of Benin were astute diplomats who established mutually beneficial relationships with foreign powers. By the late 15th century, Portuguese explorers and traders had established contact with the kingdom, marking the beginning of a long and complex relationship. The Portuguese marveled at the sophistication of Benin's governance and urban planning, often describing it as one of the most organized societies they had encountered in Africa. The role of art in statecraft art was not merely a form of expression in Benin, it was an instrument of statecraft. The kingdom's renowned bronze plaques and statues served as historical records, depicting the Obas, their court, and key events in the kingdom's history. These artifacts also reinforced the divine status of the Oba, portraying him as a semi-divine figure who ruled with the blessing of the gods. Benin art, particularly its intricate brass and ivory carvings, became a symbol of the kingdom's wealth and sophistication. The guild system, which regulated the production of art, ensured that only the finest craftsmen could produce works for the Oba's court. This system not only preserved the high quality of Benin art, but also maintained its exclusivity as a royal prerogative. Key rulers and their contributions. The rise of Benin was shaped by the visionary leadership of its Obas. While Oba Awar laid the groundwork for the kingdom's expansion, his successors built upon his legacy. Oba Ozolua, circa 1481 to 1504, known as Ozolua the Conqueror, he extended Benin's influence into neighboring territories and strengthened its military. Oba Esigi, c. 1504 to 1550. A scholar and diplomat, Esigi established formal diplomatic ties with Portugal and encouraged the growth of Christianity in the kingdom. Oba Orhogbua, c. 1550 to 1578. Under his reign, Benin extended its influence along the coast, establishing control over parts of present-day Lagos. The rise of the Benin Kingdom was characterized by visionary leadership, strategic planning, and cultural innovation. By the 16th century, Benin had reached the height of its power, standing as one of the most sophisticated and influential kingdoms in Africa. Cultural splendor and achievements. The cultural achievements of the Benin Kingdom are among its most enduring legacies, symbolizing the creativity, sophistication, and ingenuity of the Edo people. From its architectural marvels and legendary artworks to its vibrant festivals and religious practices, Benin was a beacon of culture in pre-colonial Africa. This section delves into the facets of Benin's cultural splendor that contributed to its historical prominence. Architectural marvels, the Benin Moat, and urban planning. One of the most remarkable architectural achievements of the Benin Kingdom is the Benin Moat, or Iya. Often described as one of the largest man-made earthworks in the world, the moat and wall system served both defensive and symbolic purposes. The moat, constructed in concentric circles around the city, extended over 16,000 kilometers and required decades of labor. Built using rudimentary tools, its sheer scale reflects the kingdom's organizational capacity and the unity of its people. Beyond its defensive function, the moat was a status symbol that signified Benin's strength and technological advancement. The urban planning of Benin City was equally impressive. Early European visitors, including Portuguese and Dutch traders, described a well-organized city with wide, straight streets and an orderly layout. The Royal Palace, a sprawling complex of courtyards, galleries, and ceremonial halls, stood at the heart of the city, representing the political and spiritual center of the kingdom. Covered with intricate carvings and adorned with bronze plaques, the palace was a masterpiece of Edo craftsmanship. Art and craftsmanship, the legacy of Benin Bronzes. The art of Benin is perhaps its most celebrated cultural achievement, particularly the iconic Benin Bronzes. These exquisite works, crafted from brass, bronze, and ivory, include plaques, statues, masks, and ceremonial objects. Each piece tells a story depicting historical events, court ceremonies, or religious rituals, and serving as a visual record of the kingdom's history. The royal guild system regulated the production of art in Benin. Craftsmen were organized into specialized guilds, each responsible for a particular art form, such as bronze casting, ivory carving, or woodwork. The most skilled artisans worked exclusively for the royal court, producing works that reflected the Oba's power and divinity. Bronze casting in Benin employed the lost wax technique, a method that allowed for intricate detail and precision. The result was art that was not only visually stunning but also imbued with deep cultural and spiritual significance. The Benin Bronzes became symbols of the kingdom's wealth, creativity, and technical mastery, gaining international recognition in later centuries. Festivals and religious practices. Religion and spirituality were central to the cultural life of Benin, shaping its festivals, rituals, and everyday practices. The Edo people practiced a polytheistic religion, worshipping a pantheon of deities and ancestral spirits. The Oba, as the spiritual head of the kingdom, was considered a divine intermediary between the gods and the people. One of the most important festivals in Benin was the Igwe Festival, a celebration of renewal and purification. Held annually, the festival involved elaborate rituals to bless the Oba, cleanse the kingdom of negative influences, and ensure prosperity for the coming year. Other festivals, such as the Akaba and Oro ceremonies, honored specific deities or commemorated historical events, Religious practices in Benin also included the veneration of ancestors. Shrines dedicated to deceased family members were common, and offerings were made to ensure their blessings and protection. This ancestral veneration was reflected in the kingdom's art, with many bronze and ivory works depicting revered ancestors. Social organization and the guild system. Benin's cultural achievements were underpinned by a highly organized society. The guild system, a hallmark of Edo society, was central to the kingdom's economic and cultural life. Each guild specialized in a particular craft or trade, from metalwork and weaving to herbal medicine and divination. The guilds were not only economic units, but also cultural institutions that preserved and transmitted traditional knowledge. Membership was hereditary, and skills were passed down from one generation to the next, ensuring continuity and excellence. The guild system fostered a sense of community and pride among its members, contributing to the cultural vibrancy of the kingdom. Music, dance, and oral traditions. Music and dance were integral to the cultural fabric of Benin. The kingdom had a rich tradition of drumming, with different types of drums used for various purposes, from royal ceremonies to social gatherings. Music was often accompanied by dance, which was both an art form and a means of storytelling. Oral tradition played a crucial role in preserving the history and culture of Benin. Storytellers known as Edenware recited epic tales, proverbs, and songs that conveyed the values, beliefs, and history of the Edo people. These oral traditions complemented the visual storytelling of Benin art, creating a multi-dimensional cultural legacy. Advances in governance and diplomacy. Cultural sophistication in Benin extended to its systems of governance and diplomacy. The Obas of Benin were known for their wisdom and administrative acumen, balancing centralized authority with a participatory council system. The Uzama and Agahevbo councils played vital roles in decision-making, ensuring that the Obas' power was tempered by consultation and consensus. Benin's diplomacy was equally advanced, particularly in its dealings with European powers. The kingdom maintained diplomatic relations with Portugal, the Netherlands, and other nations, negotiating trade agreements and fostering cultural exchange. The diplomatic gifts exchanged during these interactions often included Benin art, further spreading the kingdom's cultural influence. Cultural resilience. Despite the disruptions caused by colonial incursions, the cultural legacy of Benin has endured. Efforts to revive traditional practices, coupled with the global recognition of Benin art, have ensured that the kingdom's cultural achievements continue to inspire pride among the Edo people and beyond. The cultural splendor of Benin was not merely a reflection of its prosperity, but a testament to the ingenuity and resilience of its people. Through their art, architecture, festivals, and governance, the Edo people created a civilization that continues to captivate the world. Cultural resilience. Despite the disruptions caused by colonial incursions, the cultural legacy of Benin has endured. Efforts to revive traditional practices, coupled with the global recognition of Benin art, have ensured that the kingdom's cultural achievements continue to inspire pride among the Edo people and beyond. The cultural splendor of Benin was not merely a reflection of its prosperity, but a testament to the ingenuity and resilience of its people. Through their art, architecture, festivals, and governance, the Edo people created a civilization that continues to captivate the world. Interactions with the outside world. The ancient Benin Kingdom was not an isolated society. Its strategic location in the Niger Delta region and its sophisticated political structure enabled it to establish significant interactions with neighboring African states and distant foreign powers. These interactions, which ranged from trade and diplomacy to cultural exchange, were pivotal in shaping the kingdom's identity and its place in global history. Early regional interactions. Long before contact with Europeans, Benin had established itself as a dominant power in the West African region. Its influence extended across the Niger Delta and into present-day Nigeria, where it engaged in trade, alliances, and occasional conflicts with neighboring states. The kingdom traded extensively with other West African polities, exchanging goods such as palm oil, pepper, textiles, and carved ivory. These goods, which were in high demand, allowed Benin to accumulate wealth and enhance its status as a regional power. Neighboring states also respected Benin's military strength and administrative organization, often seeking its support in disputes or conflicts. Cultural exchange was a natural byproduct of these interactions. Elements of Benin's art, religion, and governance influenced neighboring communities, while the kingdom adopted aspects of foreign practices that complemented its own traditions. The arrival of Portuguese explorers. Benin's most notable external interaction began in the late 15th century when Portuguese explorers arrived on the West African coast. The Portuguese were among the first Europeans to document their encounters with the Benin Kingdom, and their records provide valuable insights into the society's sophistication. The initial contact was driven by trade. The Portuguese sought commodities such as pepper, ivory, and later enslaved people, while offering firearms, textiles, and luxury goods in return. Benin's rulers quickly recognized the value of this relationship and established trade agreements that benefited both parties. The Portuguese were particularly impressed by Benin's urban planning, governance, and the grandeur of its royal court. They documented the city's wide streets, impressive palace complex, and the disciplined nature of its society, describing it as one of the most organized cities they had encountered in Africa. Diplomatic relations with Europe. The Benin Kingdom was adept at diplomacy, skillfully managing its relationships with European powers to preserve its sovereignty and protect its interests. Obas, RC 1504 to 1550, is particularly noted for his diplomatic acumen. Under his reign, Benin established formal ties with Portugal, exchanging ambassadors and engaging in cultural exchange. One of the most significant outcomes of this relationship was the introduction of Christianity to Benin. Portuguese missionaries built churches and sought to convert the Edo people, though the adoption of Christianity was limited. Despite this, the relationship with Portugal introduced new ideas and practices that enriched Benin's cultural and religious landscape. Trade and the transatlantic slave trade. While the initial trade between Benin and European powers focused on commodities like ivory and pepper, the transatlantic slave trade eventually became a dominant aspect of their interactions. Benin's involvement in the slave trade was complex and multifaceted. The kingdom, like many West African states, engaged in the capture and sale of enslaved people, often as a byproduct of wars and conflicts. European traders provided firearms in exchange for captives, creating a cycle that fueled both the slave trade and regional instability. However, Benin's participation in the slave trade was more measured compared to other polities, as its economy remained diversified and not wholly dependent on slavery. The ethical and moral implications of this period are still debated among historians. While the slave trade brought short-term economic benefits to Benin, it also had lasting consequences, contributing to the eventual weakening of the kingdom and its vulnerability to colonial incursions. Cultural exchange and influence. The interactions between Benin and the outside world were not limited to trade and diplomacy. They also involved significant cultural exchange. European visitors introduced new technologies such as firearms and metalworking techniques, which were adapted and integrated into Edo society. Conversely, Benin's art and culture influenced European perceptions of Africa, challenging stereotypes and showcasing the sophistication of African civilizations. The export of Benin art, whether through trade or later colonial looting, introduced the world to the kingdom's rich cultural heritage. European collectors and scholars were captivated by the intricacy of Benin's bronze plaques, masks, and sculptures, which remain celebrated in museums and galleries worldwide. Resilience amid external pressures. Despite the challenges posed by external interactions, including the exploitative nature of the transatlantic slave trade, Benin retained its cultural and political identity. The kingdom managed to navigate the complexities of European contact, leveraging trade and diplomacy to its advantage while safeguarding its traditions and sovereignty. However, these interactions also sowed the seeds of future conflicts. The growing European interest in African resources and territories ultimately led to colonial incursions, culminating in the devastating British Punitive Expedition of 1897. The external interactions of the Benin Kingdom are a testament to its adaptability and resilience. By engaging with foreign powers on its own terms, Benin not only enriched its economy and culture but also asserted its place on the global stage. Colonial incursions and the fall of Benin. The 19th century brought significant challenges for the Benin Kingdom as the dynamics of European-African relations shifted from trade and diplomacy to conquest and colonization. The arrival of British forces marked a turning point in Benin's history, leading to the eventual fall of the kingdom and the plundering of its cultural heritage. This section examines the events leading up to the British invasion, the fateful Punitive Expedition of 1897, and the immediate and long-term consequences of colonial domination. The Era of Decline. By the late 19th century, Benin's power and influence were already waning. Internal strife, economic challenges, and external pressures from neighboring polities and European powers contributed to the kingdom's decline. The abolition of the transatlantic slave trade in the early 19th century dealt a severe blow to Benin's economy, as it disrupted established trade networks and reduced the kingdom's access to firearms and other European goods. Additionally, Benin faced growing hostility from neighboring states, many of which sought to assert their independence or compete for resources. These challenges strained the kingdom's political and military systems, leaving it vulnerable to external threats. British interests in the Niger Delta. The British Empire, driven by its industrial revolution and imperial ambitions, sought to expand its control over African territories, particularly those rich in natural resources. The Niger Delta region, with its abundant oil palm and other commodities, became a focal point of British interest. The Royal Niger Company, a British chartered trading company, played a key role in expanding British influence in the region. By the late 19th century, the company sought to monopolize trade in the Niger Delta, often using coercion and military force to secure treaties with local rulers. Benin, however, resisted these overtures. The kingdom's leaders were unwilling to cede control over their trade and sovereignty, leading to increasing tensions with the British. The prelude to invasion. In 1897, relations between Benin and the British reached a breaking point. The immediate cause was a failed diplomatic mission led by Acting Consul General James Phillips, who sought to negotiate greater British access to Benin's trade. Unbeknownst to the Oba of Benin, Ovenramwen Nogbaisi, Phillips's mission included plans for military intervention if the kingdom refused to cooperate. Despite warnings that it was an inauspicious time for diplomatic talks due to ongoing religious ceremonies, Phillips and his entourage proceeded to Benin City. Along the way, they were ambushed and killed by Edo warriors, an act that the British used as a pretext for military retaliation. The Punitive Expedition of 1897. In February 1897, the British launched a full-scale military invasion of Benin, known as the Benin Punitive Expedition. Led by Admiral Harry Rawson, the force consisted of over 1,200 soldiers, armed with modern weapons and supported by naval vessels. The British forces encountered fierce resistance from Edo warriors who fought valiantly to defend their homeland. However, the kingdom's traditional weapons were no match for British firearms and artillery. After several days of fighting, the British overwhelmed Benin's defenses and captured Benin City. The aftermath of the invasion was devastating. British soldiers looted the city, taking thousands of artifacts including bronze plaques, ivory carvings, and other treasures. These items were transported to Europe, where they were sold to museums and private collectors. The royal palace was burned, and the city was left in ruins. Oba Ovenramwen fled into the forest but was later captured and exiled to Calabar, where he spent the remainder of his life under British surveillance. Impact on Benin's cultural heritage. The looting of Benin City resulted in the displacement of one of the world's most remarkable cultural legacies. The artifacts, collectively known as the Benin Bronzes, are now housed in museums and collections across Europe and North America, including the British Museum and the Metropolitan Museum of Art. While these works have brought international recognition to Benin's artistic achievements, their removal represents a profound loss for the Edo people. Efforts to recover these artifacts have gained momentum in recent decades, with calls for restitution and the return of looted cultural heritage growing louder. Colonial administration and its effects. Following the invasion, Benin was incorporated into the British colony of southern Nigeria. The kingdom's traditional governance structures were dismantled, and the Obas authority was replaced with colonial administrators. This disruption marked the end of Benin's sovereignty and the beginning of a period of profound social, economic, and cultural change. Under British rule, the Edo people were subjected to exploitative economic policies, forced labor, and cultural marginalization. The imposition of Western education and Christianity further eroded traditional practices and beliefs, contributing to the gradual erosion of Benin's identity. Resilience and revival. Despite the devastation wrought by colonial rule, the Edo people have demonstrated remarkable resilience. The monarchy was restored in 1914, albeit in a limited capacity, with the Oba serving as a symbolic leader and custodian of Edo culture. Today, the Oba of Benin remains a revered figure, playing a key role in preserving the kingdom's traditions and history. In recent years, there has been a growing movement to reclaim and celebrate Benin's cultural heritage. Efforts to recover looted artifacts, document the kingdom's history, and promote Edo art and culture have revitalized interest in Benin's legacy, both within Nigeria and internationally. The colonial incursion and fall of Benin marked one of the darkest chapters in the kingdom's history. However, the resilience of the Edo people and the enduring legacy of their culture serve as a testament to the strength and creativity of one of Africa's greatest civilizations. The legacy of Benin. Today, the Benin Kingdom's historical significance continues to resonate in modern times, reflecting its enduring influence on culture, art, and identity. Despite the challenges posed by colonialism and the passage of time, the spirit of Benin thrives in the lives of the Edo people and their contributions to global heritage. This section explores the legacy of Benin in contemporary society, including its cultural revival, calls for restitution, and its place in Nigeria and the world. The modern role of the Benin monarchy. The monarchy remains a central figure in preserving the history, traditions, and cultural practices of the Benin Kingdom. Today, the Oba of Benin serves as a custodian of Edo culture and a spiritual leader to the Edo people. While the monarchy no longer wields political power, it holds significant influence in cultural, social, and ceremonial matters. The coronation of an Oba is a highly symbolic event that reflects the continuity of Edo traditions. The current Oba, Yewere II, ascended the throne in 2016, succeeding his father, Oba Erediawa. His reign has been marked by efforts to promote Edo culture, advocate for the return of looted artifacts, and address issues affecting the Edo community, such as education and economic development, cultural revival and pride. There has been a resurgence of interest in Benin's history and culture, both within Nigeria and the global Edo diaspora. Traditional festivals such as the Iga Festival continue to be celebrated, serving as a link between past and present. These festivals provide opportunities for the Edo people to honor their heritage, reconnect with their traditions, and showcase their culture to the world. The revival of Edo art forms, including bronze casting, ivory carving, and textile production, has also gained momentum. Modern artists draw inspiration from traditional motifs and techniques, creating works that celebrate Benin's artistic legacy while addressing contemporary themes. Educational initiatives and cultural centers such as the proposed Edo Museum of West African Art, EMOWAA, aim to preserve and promote the kingdom's heritage. These efforts ensure that younger generations understand and appreciate the richness of their history. The movement for restitution. The looting of Benin City during the British Punitive Expedition of 1897 remains a sore point in the kingdom's history. Thousands of artifacts, collectively known as the Benin Bronzes, were taken and dispersed to museums and private collections across Europe and North America. In recent years, there has been growing momentum for the restitution of these artifacts. Governments, institutions, and advocacy groups have called for the return of looted treasures to their rightful owners. Some museums, such as Germany's Humboldt Forum and the Smithsonian Institution, have committed to returning Benin artifacts to Nigeria, signaling a shift in attitudes toward colonial-era acquisitions. The return of these artifacts is not merely about reclaiming physical objects. It represents a broader effort to restore cultural dignity, heal historical wounds, and celebrate the artistic achievements of the Edo people. Influence on modern art and culture. The legacy of Benin's artistry continues to inspire creators worldwide. The intricate designs and storytelling of the Benin Bronzes have influenced contemporary artists, filmmakers, and designers who draw on their motifs and themes to create new works. In addition to visual arts, Benin's cultural influence extends to music, literature, and fashion. Nigerian musicians and writers often reference the kingdom's history and myths in their works, highlighting its enduring impact on Nigerian identity. Benin's place in global discourse. The story of Benin is increasingly recognized as a crucial part of African and global history. Scholars, historians, and educators are working to integrate Benin's achievements into broader narratives of human civilization, challenging stereotypes about Africa's pre-colonial past. Benin's legacy also serves as a lens for examining issues of cultural appropriation, restitution, and post-colonial justice. The kingdom's history offers valuable lessons about resilience, innovation, and the complexities of cultural exchange. Challenges and opportunities. While efforts to revive and celebrate Benin's legacy are gaining traction, challenges remain. Economic constraints, political instability, and the lingering effects of colonialism have impacted the kingdom's ability to fully realize its potential. However, the resilience and creativity of the Edo people offer hope for the future. With continued investment in education, cultural preservation, and international collaboration, the legacy of Benin can serve as a source of inspiration and pride for generations to come. The Untold Story of Benin. The story of the ancient Benin Kingdom is a testament to human ingenuity, resilience, and the capacity for cultural expression. From its foundations as a modest settlement to its emergence as one of Africa's most sophisticated civilizations, Benin stands as a symbol of the greatness that can be achieved through visionary leadership, artistic innovation, and a commitment to tradition. Benin's rise to power under the Ogiso dynasty and its transformation into an empire under the Obas system illustrate the importance of governance, diplomacy, and adaptability. Its military conquests and territorial expansion were matched by an equally impressive cultural flourishing, as seen in its urban planning, bronze artistry, and spiritual practices. The kingdom's interactions with the outside world, particularly with Portuguese explorers and later the British, highlight its role as a global player in trade, diplomacy, and cultural exchange. These interactions brought both benefits and challenges, ultimately culminating in the tragic events of the British Punitive Expedition of 1897. The looting and destruction of Benin City not only marked the end of an era, but also set in motion a movement for justice and restitution that continues today. Despite the trials of colonialism and the passage of time, the spirit of Benin endures. The restoration of the monarchy, the resurgence of Edo traditions, and the global appreciation of its artistic legacy reflect the resilience and creativity of the Edo people. Modern efforts to reclaim looted artifacts and educate future generations about Benin's history are vital steps toward preserving this extraordinary heritage. The untold story of Benin is not just a narrative of a lost empire. It is a living legacy that continues to shape identities, inspire creativity, and challenge perceptions of Africa's past. As the world learns more about the achievements of the Benin Kingdom, it stands as a reminder of the richness of African civilizations and the importance of protecting and celebrating cultural heritage. This untold story of Benin invites us to look beyond the shadows of colonial narratives and embrace the brilliance of a kingdom whose legacy transcends time and borders.